there, so my life is good. Hi, Jimmy.
All right, perfect. We'll start with Coach Chaney, and we'll go right to questions. Again, hit the raise your hand function, and we'll call on you. And with that, we'll start with Jimmy Himes.
Hi, Jimmy.
How you doing?
I'm doing very good. I can't complain.
Good. I wanted to ask you this with Jared Garantano, having him your second year. Do you anticipate that he has better understanding of what you want him to do, and also that'll lead to him being more consistent?
Without any question, Jimmy, that's exactly the goal of every quarterback, is to get them to execute the offense the way we want to, obviously. You know, and there's so much subjectivity that comes into the evaluations of quarterbacks. You know, he did this, he did that, he shouldn't have done that. We try to eliminate that and get rid of the subjectivity, and we quantify as much as we possibly can on the practice field. Every ball that comes out of their hand, it's either on target or not. The decision's either good or not. And that's what goes into these things. And we have a category that sometimes is not good, that when we do something really stupid with the ball that puts our team at risk. And so far up to date, you can see that he's demonstrating the importance of the ball and also understanding within our concepts. Those numbers continue to rise, and it's our objective way of being able to see growth and development. And I feel real comfortable that he's doing that right now. Are we where we need to be? No, not at all. But we got to continue to work to get better. So, yes, to answer your question, I feel very comfortable we should see some growth and development out of that position.
We'll go to Blake Topmeyer, followed by Rick Russo.
Hey, Jim, sticking with the quarterbacks, where have you seen growth in JT Shrout, and how do you see him or where do you see him factoring into that quarterback competition?
Well, the same thing with JT. It's just familiarity, once again, of just knowing the concepts. And I feel like, once again, like I just mentioned to Jimmy, by the numbers, he seems to be doing a better job with the ball. With JT and young quarterbacks within new concepts, they tend to be a little reckless with the ball and putting it in spots we don't want it to go into. So we feel like being able to monitor that, they'll continually get better. And I think JT's done a really good job of that. There's a couple practices there, obviously, that he did some things we'd prefer him not to, like all quarterbacks do. But we have seen growth on that. It's just the security of the football is what we're looking for. But I feel like he's much more familiar within the concepts and progressing through where we need him to go.
Rick?
Hey, Jim, good to see you. Along the same lines of what Jimmy was talking about, going into another year, and yes, it's been an unusual off season. Do you feel like the guys are becoming more comfortable with what you want to do on that side of the ball? And speaking of the pandemic, Coach, how's that been for you and your guys trying to make it through this difficult time?
It is what it is. As a coach, you learn real quick what you can control and what you can't control. You know, we preach it all the time, and unfortunately, we were forced to live what we talk about here for about 6 months. So we can't control some of the stuff that we have to do. So we've learned to live with this, and coaches put schedules together for us to follow, and we have to follow protocols like everybody else does and how we train our kids. But I feel comfortable. We're kind of in a way of doing things and doing business right now that is going good. And so far, so good with the development of the quarterbacks. It's just been a constant learning curve. I think the familiarity, I think anytime, I don't know, just me, any coordinator you look at, I think if the systems don't change on them from year one to year two, you will see improvement. You should see improvement. And our anticipation is we see that also.
We'll go to David Ubben, followed by Brent Hubbs.
Jim, where do you see that backup quarterback spot standing right now, and any of the young receivers standing out to you so far?
Well, right now everybody's playing football. The equal reps across the board with JT Bryan, also with Harrison, and we're giving everybody as many reps as we can. Everything's up in the air. We're way too early to make decisions on that, and coaches trying to keep us in the most competitive environments we can. They got to be put under the fire. We got to see how they're going to react when things happen like that to feel comfortable with them playing. They'll earn that 2 spot and that 3 spot and that 4 spot. Unfortunately, that's life. Somebody's going to get a little better than the other one, and we'll sort that out as the thing goes on. I feel like that's where we're at right now. So nothing's cut and dry one bit. There's competition throughout the team, but particularly at that spot.
The young receivers?
Talent, very talented. They'll go fast, man. They might go the wrong way fast, and that creates some problems, but they're going fast on the football field. I'm very pleased with the kids that we brought in here as young wide receivers. I think they're going to be just fine. I think you'll see them on the football field helping us quite a bit. It's our job to get them ready to roll. You know, I think they all have a passion for the game, which you really never know when you walk on the football field, the competitive character of these freshmen until you get them out there. You have an idea, but you really don't know. But these kids all love the game of football. That's the one quality they all share. They all want to be good, and they can all run. So, and they can all catch. There's even an added quality to a good wide receiver. They can catch, run, and they love football. So there's really not a lot of barriers other than knowledge that gets in their way of being productive for us.
Brent?
Jim, on your offensive line, how different is life there now compared to a year ago? And where's the balance of continuity, competition, cross-training, and all of those things, given how unusual the last few months and not having spring practice has been?
You know, I think that's always the issue. And early in camps, we tend to try to move people around as much as we can to kind of force some uncomfortable stuff with them, trying to find out how many kids we feel like we could line up at tackle and play with, and how many centers we possibly have, how many guards we have. So there's a lot of stuff moving around. We have a lot of moving parts now. But I will say this, that Will's done a good job with these guys, and technically they're getting better every day. It's just keeping that pressure on them. We have more competition at positions, which inevitably should make you better as we work our way through it. So I'm pleased with that. Am I pleased with everything we're getting done? No. I'm not just talking about the line. Every day it seems like we'll take 2 or 3 steps forward and take a step back. So we got to get some consistency is the word we're looking for, and just how we perform and how we practice, just overall practice habits. We got to continue to get better at that and focus on that when we go out on the football field.
We'll go to Patrick Brown, followed by Vince Ferrara.
Jim, what do you see different in Eric Gray this preseason going into his freshman season last year, and how do you feel about that kind of that tandem with him and Ty Chandler in your back?
I like them both, Patrick. They're both very competitive kids. They both are determined to have good seasons. You can just see there's an air of maturity about those two kids when they walk on the field. They do their business. They're real professional how they look at it. They're trying to get better at specific things as they go on the football field. And Jay's done a good job of just identifying those things they need to work on. They're out there practicing with purpose. You're seldom ever – they're to a point in their careers, you're not coaching effort, you're not coaching alignment, you're coaching the nuances, the things that make a difference on a play with those two young men. And they're really driven to be successful. They're fun to be around, and they're practicing very hard. And Eric's done a good job as is Ty. Real pleased with those two.
But there was a lot of compliments about Austin Pope when he was out and what he meant to your football team. Now Coach Pruitt said he's back and could be good for the opener. Talk about him specifically, what he means to your football team, and then also the rest of that group of tight ends.
Well, Austin is that. He's a stabilizing force. He's a good kid, been around football a long time. We like what he brings to the table. He'll always be that consistent kid that we like. Behind him, you got Princeton Fant is a young man. We bounced around a lot early in his career, but we feel real comfortable where we have him right now doing what he needs to be doing. Jacob Warren is doing a fine job. There's a lot of competition in the room. They all have a little different skill set. It seems like it's interesting to me. Behind him, Jordan Allen, and you got Sean Brown. You got some other guys that are just mixing around, and there's a lot of competition there, waiting on someone to jump above the other ones and emerge as a solid football player. They're just continually learning. You're talking about kind of guys that haven't played a lot of football for us in those spots. So that is a position that we're trying to force feed a lot of growth fast on and development, and we're doing that hopefully through competition.
We'll go to Austin Price, followed by Blake.
Coach, you talked about the freshman receivers just a minute ago. You had a group that came in here with Justin Hunter and Derek Rogers, and then eventually CP. How would you compare this group to maybe those kids, and how would you kind of balance getting them involved the same way you got those players involved about a decade ago?
Well, it'll be the same, Austin. We'll get to that game situation when we finally get down to honing down the game plans and making sure they're fitting in the pieces where they can help us at within the structure of what we're trying to do to win that game. I see them doing that. Forcing the overall learning curve right now on them's tough. T is T's on their butt constantly just about learning. I think so many of these kids have just been given the ball a lot of times, but there's so much learning. It's like you're teaching them how to learn an offense, and it's a whole different way of doing business, a whole different language they have to learn, and it's tough on them sometimes. So these kids are having to learn a lot, and T's doing a good job just trying to get the boys to figure out what they're doing. And I speculate that it'll be similar to like Justin. They'll eventually learn and get on the field more and more and more, just like Derek did as we went through the thing. CP was a different story. He was a junior college kid when he got here, but the two other ones you mentioned, Austin, would be similar to that. We'll just feed them in. They have skill sets that we can definitely utilize. So there'll be play-specific things, I'm certain, as the season comes along. But I sure like what we're seeing right now.
How much growth have you seen in Cedric Tillman this offseason?
Fine. Cedric's been battling a little bit of hamstring early on, but he's doing what he needs to do. Cedric's a big, strong kid with strong hands. I feel like he should be a very productive player for us this fall. I'm pleased with Ced. And the kids laugh because Ced's was my favorite. Ced's my man. So Ced and I are tight, and I get a kick out of our relationship. I like the young man. He's getting better and better every day he walks out on the field.
Hey, Jim, back to Jarrett. Last year he lost the starting job, got it back. You see a lot of quarterbacks at signs of trouble, will head for the transfer portal. What was that like going through that situation with him? How did you see him handle it? And were there ever any concerns that, he might look elsewhere and not handle the situation like he did?
Your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. And his actions spoke for the young man. So that's never been a questionable part with him. His competitive toughness has never been questioned. His resolve to be a starting winning quarterback at Tennessee has never been questioned. It's just going out on the field and performing at a high level consistently. And that's what we're going to try to get done this year with Jarrett. And I'm pleased with him. I like the kid a lot. He wants to be at Tennessee. He's a Tennessee Vol, and he wants to win football games.
We'll go to Rob Lewis and then back to Jimmy.
Coach, I know he didn't practice last week, but just what have you seen from Harrison Bailey over the summer, and what do you think about his potential?
I think Harrison's going to be a solid football player for us here. He's learning. It's the same old stage, just like those young freshman wideouts. They're all learning everything. Unfortunately, Harrison got here early, but we only got 2 days of spring. So it would have been really nice to have had him all spring to see where he's at today, where he's at right now. Yesterday, he threw some very nice balls for us. So it's interesting to see how he continues to grow. It's obvious some of the concepts he has a grasp on. He plays fast and makes good decisions. Other ones that he's a little confused on, he plays a little slower. So he looks to me like just every other freshman quarterback I've had to deal with. They're just learning. The ones they know, they play quick and fine. But I'm pleased with Harrison as he continues to develop.
Jimmy?
Jim, in regard to Cade Mays, you had a firsthand look at him in Georgia a while back. What are your expectations for him, and how good can he be?
I think Cade could be an exceptional football player. He's big, he's strong, he's tough, he's smart, he's intuitive. That's what he needs to do. He needs to go out and football play. He's a rugged football player. He loves to play the game. I mean, arrows up on Cade Mays. I mean, he's a good player. I like him.
All right, we'll go back to David.
I moved out of the center here, so they moved me back. I don't know. I haven't moved a bit, and all of a sudden I got wiggled, so I'm learning it.
Back to Jarrett for a little bit. How would you assess his 2019 season, and what does that compare to what you're seeing from him in this offseason?
You realize there's no questions pre-COVID. That's illegal. So we
Good
can't.
to know.
That period of all of our lives really didn't even exist. So we're moving on. Inconsistency, flashes of very talented arm talent and good plays, but inconsistently. He would be the first to admit that. I mean, he just did in the new system. What was it? His third system in college. So some expectations there might have been a little high for him. But at the end of the day, whoever we put out there to represent us has got to perform at quarterback. I mean, you guys all know, and you're the first ones to realize it, maybe the second. But you got to perform at that position with consistency. And I think that's where Jarrett would say he needs to perform and get better at.
We'll close with Rob Lewis.
Way to go, Rob.
Bill, I didn't have my hand raised.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll go. I see Trey Wallace has his hand. We'll have him close.
Jim, when you look at a player like Ramel Keaton and him being able to return to the football team this year and try to lead that wide receiver group, who else is kind of stepped up for you, you think, when it comes to leaders? I know you mentioned Cedric Tillman, but is there anybody else that stood out to you so far?
Well, the seniors, Josh and Brandon in that group, they're the ones that have to run the show at that wide receiver group. Obviously, BK in the center spot for us is the senior in the offensive line. The running backs are dictated. Ty and Eric, they take care of all that stuff. But out there on the outside, I'd say, you got definitely Josh and Brandon running that show. But back to Ramel. Ramel's a strong kid. Looks a little wiry, but very strong-handed kid. And had a really good practice yesterday. Really pleased with him. And he could be as good as he determines he wants to be. That's Ramel. He's still a young player, learning, but boy, when he wants to go, he's a good football player.
All right. Thanks, Coach Chaney. We appreciate it.
Hey, guys, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this. It's been fun. Hit me up sometime. Find me on Twitter. I'll see you guys.
We'll see you next spring, Jim.
Tell Coach Pruitt that.